Thank you. This is my father. If this picture doesn't show you how amazing he is, I hope my talk will. Without a doubt in my mind, he is the definition of hard work, resilience, and dedication. Kindness and compassion only scratches the surface when beginning to describe him. A leader in the Senegalese community in New York City, and a leader for our family back home in Senegal. A transnational identity that balances the weight of two lands on his shoulders. This weight of responsibility and trust is something that I've always admired about my father. But even as a child, I never understood the immensity of that weight. Through it all, my father would always smile and push through for his family and friends. Now, I've always admired him, but he's a really tricky guy. So, while being an amazing leader, he's also an amazing teacher. While thinking about everything that he's done for me throughout my childhood, he's never skipped a beat when it came to teaching a life lesson. Whether I was fighting with my sisters or just wasn't listening, his words would not only stop me, but he would make me reflect on my decisions and think about why I was committing my actions in the first place. Rewinding a bit back to 18-year-old me, I'm getting ready to depart for my first year at Bowdoin College. Excitement and energy was just bubbling up inside me. I was ready for what the future would hold. Everything was going great. The weather was amazing. My direct deposit just hit my account for my summer job. There was no sign of any storm approaching anytime soon. But then, thanks to me, the day before I left for college, I broke my watch. But even with the broken frame and cracked enclosing, the watch was still ticking, hitting each second mark, miraculously moving each minute hand, and completing its cycle with the hour hand aligned exactly where it's supposed to be. The watch was an old relic from middle school, so it held some sentimental value, but I was not distraught. The morning of my departure, I walked past my dad in the hallway. He noticed my broken watch. He stopped me. He looked me in the eye, and without saying any words, he took off the watch from his wrist and he gave it to me. I told him, I don't need a watch. My broken watch is still working, as crazy as that sounds. But he wouldn't budge. I told him I didn't need it. He just insisted. I asked him why he had given me his only watch. He told me, surprisingly, his story to America, and he told me to keep the broken watch with me when I went to college. I was surprised because my mom is usually the one to give me the long but important talks. It was very out of his character. But regardless, I listened to him. I felt the power in his words, but he never gave a direct reason as to why the watch was related to the story. My dad can be an enigmatic character, so I knew there was a deeper significance to what he was saying. I replayed the story over and over again in my head, but I still couldn't get it. This is the story that he told me. March 19th, 1989, 29 years ago, I began my journey to America, one of the biggest decisions of my life. While I had relatives in New York City, I didn't know where I was going to find work. I didn't know where I was going to find an apartment to start a family. And I didn't even know if I would be able to get your mother and older sister to America safely. I was constantly in the unknown, but I had to accept the risk. The first thing I did was sell merchandise in the street. CDs, DVDs. While it went well for a while, I was fined for not having a license. I could have easily continued, but I had to think of all of you, my family. After weeks of trying to find a new job and almost returning back home to Senegal, and almost just giving up, I found a job at a laundry room downtown at a hotel. Although I was able to get your mother and older sister to America safely, the job was tough. Day in, day out, breaking my back. The managers didn't like me. There was almost nothing that I could do. One day, as the managers were walking towards me, I knew they probably didn't have anything good to say. And at that moment, I was scared. I was scared for my future and what would become of my history. I was afraid that I would continue taking steps backwards. As the managers approached me, I just accepted the worst. Suddenly, my friend Tito stood up, that I didn't know that well, and he started speaking to the managers. I couldn't hear the conversation clearly, but I heard that he was telling them how dedicated I was, how hardworking I was, and how I deserved to be here. I didn't know the man very well, but he spoke up for me. In that moment, I woke up. I continued to push myself, and I said I'm going to get my degree in computer technology like I've always dreamed of. From the laundry room, I was promoted to bellhop. I worked night after night, book after book. After hurdling over many tribulations, I finally got my master's degree. A few weeks later, I was promoted to IT manager of the entire building. How insane is that? There were many times I wanted to give up, but I had to think of all of you, my family. All of my pain, all of my sorrow, all of my sacrifices, and everything that I've endured would have amounted to nothing if I had given up on you, if I had given up on your chance, your dream, and your future. After receiving that promotion, I thought back to the time I was in the laundry room ready to just give up. The moment where I thought I had failed as a father, where I thought I could no longer move forward, where I thought all of my accomplishments amounted to nothing. All it took was a friend to help me up. Tito's words made me realize that I have so much more work to do, and I can't just give up here. My mistake was I allowed myself to get stuck. I neglected the steps that I had passed and just kept looking forward into the finish line. I made it to America. My wife and kids have a safe home. There's food in the fridge. While neglecting the steps that I had passed, which were equally important, looking at the finish line almost made me give up on everything that I worked for. Now, it was hard, but I had to do it. I wanted to give up many moments, but I just had to keep pushing. These were all thoughts ruminating in my head as I received news of the promotion, one of the most grounding and happiest moments of my life. After hearing my father's story, I was not only shocked, but I could tell there was so much more pain and struggle from his journey to America. I've never asked him about it. I took my time, I went on the plane, thought about the story over and over again, replaying it in my head. It was not until I took my first steps at Bowdoin College that I realized what he meant. This new watch, it was more than a gift. It was a symbol of my accomplishments and my growth. It was a symbol of my next step, my next chapter. The reason he told me to keep that broken watch is because it's a representation of the adversity that I have overcome. A reminder that whenever I feel doubt in my heart, or I don't feel good enough, that I can push forward every second, every minute, every hour of the day. Throughout our lifetimes, we often become that broken watch. The question we must ask ourselves is, will we keep ticking? Will we push forward when the numbers aren't in our favor? What allowed my father to push forward in his moment of doubt and despair was not only himself and his own perseverance, but a friend. It's the people that you surround yourself with, your friends and family, that become a part of your steps forwards and backwards. Although I have my broken watch at home, it's still in sync with the one that I wear today. I wanted to share this story today because my idea forward is accepting ourselves as human beings. While it's important to have the next technology or next development, our stories are equally important. Our experiences, our journeys are what inspire us and remind us of our origin. As human beings, we have a lot of work to do in here, in our heart, and a lot of work to do out there. If we neglect our failure, we neglect our future. My father taught me the idea forward. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be standing here sharing his story today. I hope one day we can all find our version of forward, whatever it may be, and grasp it and live our lives with the vivacious energy that no one will stop. So for now, let's just keep ticking. Thank you.